Natasha, hi, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing, Charles?
Good. I'm really excited to talk with you about SkyMed. It's such an exciting show.
It is
And you're the lead too. How does that feel?
amazing. Yeah, I'm super honored to be a part of the show and with such an incredible ensemble of the cast and all of the people behind it. I'm honored and I'm excited.
Yeah, I think I was talking to your friend, your good friend now, Tiara, who was the
Mhm.
lead on Nurses, and she was talking about what that had meant, getting advice from people who had been the number one before and applying it. And
Yeah.
I think it even says too that your character is inspired or loosely based on the showrunner's sister. So
Yeah.
what's that experience like?
It was really cool. It's interesting because when I first auditioned for SkyMed and was reading Hayley, I felt like I understood her really well. Um, and then it wasn't until after I was actually cast that Julie, our showrunner, told me that Hayley was based off of her sister, and actually our whole show is loosely based off of her sister and her brother-in-law's story of how they met flying medevacs, and Sarah, who my character is based off of, is a flight nurse, and her husband now is a pilot. And so yeah, it was really interesting and insightful meeting her and hearing about all of her adventures and all her story behind being a flight nurse and everything that comes along with it, and the challenges and the hardships. And so yeah, talking to her definitely gave me a better understanding of who Hayley was, and I thought it was very cool, and I was very honored to be cast as somebody who's obviously very close to her heart.
Hmm. Is this something you've ever had a chance to do before?
No, that's a good question. I haven't. No, so it was yeah, no. So it was very yeah, I just felt honored, and like meeting somebody who, my character's based off of was I wanted to do a good job. I felt kind of nervous at the beginning, like when I first heard that, because obviously there's added pressures when it comes to, playing somebody or playing a character who's based off of a real person.
Mhm.
But then when I got to sit down with her and I got to meet her, I was like, oh my gosh, she's such a wonderful human, and playing Hayley just made sense. And yeah, it was
What
wonderful.
about what about doing the flying? Have you ever done that before?
My gosh, no, I haven't. And it was really cool because when we filmed in Winnipeg.
Mhm.
And so when we first got there, our whole cast, we all got together and we sort of divided up into the people who were playing nurses and then the people who were playing pilots. And the
Mhm.
pilots got actual hands-on pilot training from the brother-in-law that I was speaking of. And it was really cool. They got to go in the cockpit, and then us nurses had an entire day of training with EMTs, and we had the whole medical side of it, which was super hands-on. And then at the end of this whole day, we all came together and got to go flying up in a real airplane, and like actually got to go up. And the pilots were sitting at the front and kind of like watching, and they were explaining what was going on, and us nurses were in the back and we were talking, and it was really interesting. It was really cool how the team of people, like our producers and our showrunner, wanted us to have a hands-on experience before we started filming.
Mhm. So you do have a bit of nursing training, I imagine, from nurses.
Yeah.
But interestingly, on the show, your character is supposed to be a bit of a fish out of water at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
To come from labor and delivery rather than sort of to know the general knowledge. So, how much experience did you bring in?
I felt very comfortable in the medical world just from doing 2 seasons of nurses. I
Mhm.
felt, comfortable with the jargon and with the actions. I mean, it was very helpful. We had an on-site doctor the entire time who would oversee everything, and he was incredible. But I definitely had to remind myself that I can't come in as like a confident nurse who knows this world, because it's very different than what Hayley knows in labor and delivery. And so I
Mhm.
did have to check myself a couple of times where I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back and I need to be a little bit more, new to this world and take it all in, and a little bit more, I think, apprehensive. But yeah, it was funny having to remind myself like, okay, this isn't your world. Like as comfortable as you are being a fake nurse on a different show, like completely different. So yeah, it was very fun.
So tell me about, let's set it up a little bit. You know, you've seen the first episode. I've seen three, but tell me what happens. Tell me what to expect right from the start.
Are you trying to get spoilers, Charles?
I'm
Are
not
you?
trying to get
Oh.
spoilers at all. I'm just trying to figure out, because you're the new kid, right?
Yeah.
You're jumping right in. And as I said, the lead. So yes,
Yeah.
you don't have to give me any spoilers, but tell me what to
Um,
expect right from the start.
Yeah, well, SkyMed follows the intense personal lives of a group of first responders in the remote north, and it follows them as they face all of the challenges of the elements, that being in that environment brings. But it's also really interesting because there's an added layer of you know personal drama because they all live together. These pilots and nurses all live together in the crew house, and it's very, it's isolated. It's in Thompson, Manitoba, which I don't know if you've had the pleasure of visiting, but it's
Not yet.
it's definitely a very different feel than anywhere I've ever been. I mean, I'm a city girl. I've born and raised in Vancouver. So the dynamic of working together with these people who you also live with, and your main goal and objective is to save lives and to help these people where, help and survival are literally thousands of miles away. And we have to use our resources and everything to help these people. It was pretty inspiring, and also really opened my eyes to a whole world that I had no idea even existed, just because I'm so naive and I'm ignorant because I'm from the city. So yeah, I think the show, it's very exciting. It's very fun. It's dangerous. It's sexy. It's young, and it's all based off of true events inspired by real, SkyMed and pilots and flight nurses. So it's also authentic because we're telling true stories, and I think we're also telling stories that haven't really been told before. So it's a very fun show, and there's a lot of twists and turns, and the character arcs are beautiful. And I think there's going to be a character for everybody and a storyline for everybody, that people will fall in love with and be able to relate to.
Yeah. So when you have a lot of young people living in close confines together, there might be some, romantic interest perhaps.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think it's also really interesting working as a team. I mentioned this earlier, but saving lives, but like relying on each other as a team, it creates a bond that, I think is super unique. And especially being in a remote place and living in a remote place and all living together, like going to work, saving lives, and having that, sort of teamwork and bonding aspect, and then going home and maybe talking about it. And because there's a lot, a lot of pressures and a lot of heavy things that come with this job. And so I think it bonds people in a really unique way. So, with that being said, um, yeah, hookups and relationships and love triangles, I think it's it's all part of it.
Yeah, we might see some.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience of shooting it. How intense is it? How you're actually on site probably for the whole experience? What's that like for you?
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I mean, we had the honor of filming in a lot of really beautiful locations. I think that was one of my favorite parts of this show, is that we weren't, just in a studio, which is typically how a lot of, TV shows work. It's just efficient. You go to one place every single day. It's great. It's routine. But with this show, it's so much relies on the location and the wilderness and the outdoors, and so it creates a really beautiful world that the show sort of lives in. And so I think that was one of my favorite parts was, and it was all, I mean, that also had its challenges too, because we had to sometimes get up and drive for 2 hours just to get to a set, and the sets like in the middle of nowhere. And so there was a bunch of challenges that came along with that, but it was such a big adventure. Like this whole show, it's not only an adventurous show, but it was an adventure to film and be a part of. And I think our whole cast and crew, like we all bonded because it was a hard show to film, but it was super rewarding and super fun.
It's a great fit for CBC Gem, and Paramount Plus. I
Yeah.
thought the action sequences in particular were intense. Watching it, it's like white knuckle grip. It's really, really fun to watch those, and
Yeah.
really breathtaking as well too. What was it like for you to shoot some of the action scenes?
Oh, so fun. So fun. We all had such a blast. I mean, like we got to do really cool things. We got to ride on ATVs and snowmobiles, and like we had an entire day of like ATV training where we just got to rip around and got to learn how to drive them, and we were all such, you know, like so excited about this. Like we're all such adventurous, people who were really excited to, you know, sort of take this role on hands on. And so yeah, the adventurous aspect and all of the action behind the show was a lot of fun for all of us, and we had to remember not to laugh and just giggle amongst ourselves because we were having so much fun. We're like, okay, no, wait, this is serious, the stakes are high, we got to pretend like we're stressed, but we were all having a hoot.
Okay, so I want to call back a little bit. When I talked to you for Nurses, actually on the set of Nurses, you were telling me about the Possessed and what you had to do for the Possessed. One of the things you mentioned in particular was having to eat so many burgers at the table. They just gave you one after the other, and you went with it, right?
Yeah.
And so what's really funny on the show is one of the first things that happens when you come in, or when your character comes in, and you're sort of kind of being welcomed to the house by Weezer, who's sort of like the father figure maybe of the house, or you're offered a burger, and then
right.
and then you say no immediately. So maybe I don't know if you're calling back to that or not.
That's so funny. I didn't even think about that. Thank God I said no. I had to eat so many burgers that one day that you were talking about. No, but actually, funny enough, there's one scene where we're barbecuing and I'm eating, oh my gosh, I forget what it was, like a hot dog or something. But I made the mistake of like committing to eat an entire hot dog, like so then I was like, oh no, for continuity wise, I have to eat, 18 more. So I keep making that same mistake. I think I just get so excited that I get to like eat on camera. Forget that like after 3 takes, I don't want to eat anymore.
At least you're remembering, you're calling back to sort of the earlier experiences. And I want to know about that because, seeing you in the show, seeing you as the lead of the show, seeing how intense the show is, it's really awesome to see your maturation and, growing up in the industry. So what is that? What has that meant for you? What's that been like for you to grow up in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very, very lucky, and I feel very I'm appreciative and grateful for the fact that I was able to discover my passion so early on at such a young age, and make it into a career. I know how lucky I am, and I never take that for granted. And it's been really it's interesting. Like being a child actor and playing child characters is just a whole different world than now, playing an adult and leading a show. It's pretty surreal, and I know my parents are very proud. I do feel very lucky, and I think I learned so much. I was such a sponge when I was little, and I was just so in love with the whole industry, everybody's job, like the cameraman, the cinematographer, the hair and makeup. Like I wanted to do everything, not just be the actor. So now as I'm older, I'm having more opportunities, and I'm really excited to be able to direct one day and produce one day. And now I'm at an age where, I want to get behind the camera. And I mean, I still love acting. I will always love acting, but it's now just really interesting because my childhood dreams of sort of wanting to do everything I'm kind of starting to map that out and see when that's going to happen for me. But it feels like it's coming, close. And yeah, it's been a very fun ride.
So I want to ask you, what did you take? You have a lot of connections to Nurses, a few of the people involved from Nurses, but also, I'm seeing that your team on this, your showrunner, the writers, everybody, it's such a diverse group, a wonderful group. So, what was the experience like for you to come off of nurses and to be in this show in SkyMed?
Yeah, well, I'm super lucky. Julie Puckrin is our showrunner, and she was a showrunner and writer on Nurses too, a co-showrunner. And Vanessa Piazza, same thing. I worked with her on season 1 of Nurses, and they are the most lovely people, and they're such like woman bosses, and they know what they want, and but they're so welcoming and loving, and they make sure that everybody's taken care of, and that the cast is taken care of, and is happy. So it was such a seamless transition from one show to another with them, and I was so excited to be working with them again. um, and yeah, they're such wonderful people who are so inclusive, and they want to make sure that they have an inclusive writers room, and an inclusive, a diverse cast, and all of these things were really important to them. And so I feel really honored. I mean, we got to work with many female directors, which is incredible, and I feel so lucky to be a part of a show that that's important to everybody as well.
Mm, well said. So I have to ask you, because everybody's going to be watching SkyMed very soon. What have you been into? What have you been watching lately?
Oh, good question. What have I been watching lately? Ozark.
Yeah.
But I was really late to the Ozark game. Like, I'm only on season 2 right now, so
Oh,
and I've been staying away from all the spoilers. So
okay, good.
don't.
I wasn't going to give you any of them.
Okay, great. No, so yeah, Ozark I've been really into, and then like guilty pleasure TV. Unfortunately, like The Ultimatum and like
Mm.
Two Handle were 2 shows that I unfortunately got sucked into, but
They're
not
all
ashamed.
intense. You
Yeah,
picked a range of shows, but they're all very intense shows, quite
yeah,
like yours. That's cool to see.
yeah.
All right. And so, since the show is coming out soon and we are very excited for it, do you have a favorite moment? Do you have a favorite memory from set? Do you have a favorite moment from filming?
Ooh, good question. Oh, there are so many, honestly. The cast, we all lived in the same apartment building. And so it was a very fun experience. We would leave our doors unlocked, and we'd pop over to each other's places and have movie nights and have game nights and go to the gym together. And like, we genuinely became so close. And so a lot of my favorite moments was just because of the people, and like funny moments on set. And but I'm trying to think, like, um I think also a part of one of my favorite moments was filming on a beach, um, and being on a boat. We it felt pretty cool because there was like a drone that was circling the boat as we were like driving in it across this beautiful lake, and it was sunset, and we were all in our flight suits, and we were all together. And I think every single one of us had a tear in our eye, just because it was one of the first days of filming, and it was just such a surreal, spectacular, pinch me career goal moment of just like the beauty and being on a boat and having this chopper or this drone filming us and doing all these aerials. It was pretty spectacular. And so I think a lot of us and who were on that boat, we look back to that, and it was one of those moments on set that you will never forget. Every once in a while those moments come around where you're like, okay, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my career. And that was one of the moments for me.
Yeah, I'm so excited that I got a chance to speak with you, and I wish you the best, Natasha. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you again.